I am at the airport, ready for my flight. My bag is packed, and I have my boarding pass. I look at the screen in front of me. It shows my flight number. Flight 107 to New York. It says, on time. I smile and think, everything is going well. I pass through security and go to my gate. There are many people waiting. Some are talking on their phones, others are reading books, and a few are just sitting quietly. I sit down, check my phone, and wait. Suddenly, I hear an announcement. A woman's voice says, "Attention! Passengers of Flight 107 to New York. Your flight is delayed because of bad weather. Please wait in the lounge for more information." I look around. People start talking to each other. Some look confused and others seem upset. A man near me says, "Oh no, not again." A woman nearby sighs loudly and says, "I can't believe this." I feel worried. My stomach feels tight. I look at my phone again and check the time. I have an important meeting in New York tomorrow morning. Now I am not sure I will make IE take a deep breath and tell myself, it's just a delay. The flight will leave soon. I get up and walk to the lounge. It is very crowded. Some people are sitting on chairs. Some are standing in groups, and others are in line for coffee. I find a seat by the window. Outside, the sky is gray and it is raining hard. The planes on the runway are not moving. The woman from before sits near me. She is talking on her phone. "Yes, the flight is delayed," she says. "I don't know how long we have to wait. I will call you when I know more." She sounds frustrated. Another announcement comes. The same voice says, "We are sorry for the delay. We are watching the weather. Please wait for updates." A man sits next to me. He looks at his watch and shakes his head. "Bad weather," he says to himself. "I should have taken an earlier flight." I nod and say, "I hope it won't take too long." He smiles a little and says, "Let's hope for the best." Then he opens his laptop and starts typing. I sit back in my chair trying to stay calm, but my mind is full of thoughts. What will happen next? Will I get to New York on time? The room feels tense. People are speaking softly, and I hear the rain hitting the windows. A man sits down next to me, checking his watch again and again. He looks worried. Finally, he turns to me and asks, "Do you think the flight will leave tonight?" I shrug and say, "I hope so. But with this weather, who knows?" The man lets out a big sigh and says, "I have an important meeting in New York tomorrow morning. If the flight is canceled, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know how to reply." He looks very stressed. He pulls some papers out of his bag and starts looking through them quickly. While we sit there, a woman walks over and sits on the other side of him. She looks frustrated too. She leans forward and asks, "Did you hear anything about the flight? Is it canceled?" The man shakes his head and says, "No news yet, just a delay." The woman sighs loudly. "This is terrible. I have another flight after this one. If I miss it, my whole trip is ruined. I'm supposed to fly to Europe tonight." I sit quietly listening to them. I don't have a connecting flight or a big meeting like they do, but I still feel nervous. I think about all the things I need to do in New York. Will I even get there in time? The woman continues, "Traveling is always so stressful." I planned everything perfectly, but now this delay might ruin everything. The man nods and says, "Airports are so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen." Their conversation makes me even more nervous. I look at the screen again, but nothing has changed. The word delayed is still there in big red letters. The three of us sit in silence for a moment. The room feels heavy with worry. Then the man suddenly stands up and says, "I'm going to ask the staff if they know anything." He grabs his bag and walks quickly toward the desk. The woman looks at me and asks, "Do you think they'll tell him anything useful?" They never give clear answers. I shrug and reply, "Maybe he'll find out something." We both watch as he waits in the long line at the desk. Around us, people are moving around, talking softly or staring at their phones. Everyone wants answers, but no one has them. I lean back in my chair. My mind is racing. What's going to happen next? Will we be stuck here all night? Will we even get to New York? I don't know, but I feel a sinking feeling in my stomach. Suddenly, the speakers come on again. The same calm voice says, "Attention, passengers of Flight 107. Your flight is delayed for another 2 hours. We apologize for the inconvenience." I let out a deep sigh, and I hear other people around me groan in frustration. The man from before shakes his head and mutters, "That's it. I'm going to talk to the airline staff. This is unacceptable." He storms off toward the desk, walking quickly. I stay in my seat and look at the woman sitting nearby. She is rubbing her temples and looks very tired. I decide to talk to her. "This is so frustrating, isn't it?" She nods and says, "Yes, it is. But what can we do? Traveling is always like this. I love visiting new places, but airports are the worst part." I smile a little and say, "That's true. But sometimes we get good stories from these situations." Her face softens, and she looks curious. "Like what? Do you have a story?" I nod. "Last year I went to Barcelona. It was beautiful, but my luggage got lost. I had to spend 2 days without my clothes or toiletries." She laughs. "Oh no, what did you do?" I grin and say, "I bought the cheapest clothes I could find and just enjoyed the city. It was stressful at first, but in the end it was fine." She laughs again and shares her own story. That's funny. Something similar happened to me in Japan. I missed my train and ended up in the wrong city. I didn't speak the language, and no one understood me. But I found a small cafe, and the owner helped me figure out how to get back. It's one of my best memories now. We both laugh, and for a moment the delay doesn't feel so bad. Just then the man comes back. His face is red, and he looks very upset. "They said we might have to wait all night," he says loudly, his frustration clear. The woman and I exchange worried looks. She asks, "All night? Are they serious?" The man nods, his voice sharp. They don't have any updates. They are waiting for the weather to clear, but they can't promise anything. Around us, the noise in the lounge gets louder. People are on their phones trying to rebook flights. Others are complaining loudly, their voices adding to the chaos. I feel my stomach tighten with worry. The woman sighs heavily and says, "This is getting worse." The three of us sit there, unsure of what to do next. Outside, the rain keeps falling, heavy and constant. It feels like the night will never end. The tension in the lounge grows. People are pacing back and forth or talking loudly. I try to stay calm, but my nerves are on edge. Suddenly, the speakers crackle, and we hear an announcement. Attention, passengers of Flight 107. The flight is now canceled. Please go to the airline desk for rebooking. I freeze. My heart sinks when I hear the words, flight canceled. Around me, the room erupts with murmurs, gasps, and groans. The man sitting next to me turns to me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What do we do now?" he asks. The woman looks shocked, too. She shakes her head and says, "We have no choice. Let's go to the desk." We grab our bags and head to the airline desk together. The line is already very long, stretching across the lounge. Many people are ahead of us. Some are arguing with the staff, and others are typing on their phones looking desperate. The atmosphere feels chaotic. The man sighs deeply and says, "This is a nightmare. I can't miss my meeting." The woman shakes her head, worry in her voice. "I don't think I'll make it to Europe now. My connecting flight leaves in just a few hours. I don't know what to say. My plans feel small compared to theirs, but the uncertainty makes me feel just as heavy." We wait in line for what feels like forever. The noise around us grows louder as more passengers join the line. Someone ahead yells, "This is unacceptable. We need answers." Another person slams their suitcase on the ground, muttering angrily. Finally, it's our turn. We step up to the counter, and the airline staff member greets us with a tired smile. "Good evening," she says. "How can I help you?" The man speaks first. "Our flight was canceled. We need to get to New York as soon as possible." The woman nods and adds, "I have a connecting flight. Is there any way I can still make it?" The staff member types on her computer, her face serious. After a moment, she looks up and says, "I'm sorry, but the earliest flight we can offer is tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. The man groans loudly. "Tomorrow morning? That's too late." The woman frowns and says, "I'll miss my flight to Europe. It's pointless now." I step forward and ask, "Is there anything else you can do? Can we take an earlier flight?" The staff member shakes her head and says, "The weather is still bad, and all flights tonight are grounded. This is the best we can do. You can stay in the airport or book a hotel nearby. We're very sorry for the inconvenience." We stand there in silence. The situation feels hopeless, and we don't know what to do next. Later, we are sitting in the hotel restaurant. The tension has eased, and now we're laughing and sharing stories. The man smiles and says, "You know, this delay was so frustrating, but I'm glad I wasn't stuck alone in the airport. Meeting you two made it better." The woman nods in agreement, her stress from earlier fading. I smile and feel the same way. Even in the chaos, we found something good. The woman adds, "Exactly. Sometimes things happen for a reason. If we weren't delayed, we wouldn't be here, laughing and forgetting about the chaos." I raise my glass and say, "To unexpected friends and finding good things in bad situations." The conversation flows easily as we eat our food. The man talks about his job in New York and the big meeting he had planned for tomorrow. The woman shares her excitement about her canceled trip to Europe and all the places she wanted to visit. I talk about my own plans in New York and how I'm trying to adjust to the delay. We laugh and swap stories, and the stress from earlier feels far away. The delay no longer feels so bad. Then, just as we're finishing dinner, the TV in the corner of the restaurant catches our attention. A breaking news banner flashes across the screen, and the bold words, "Severe weather causes flight disruptions across the region," glow on the screen. The reporter's voice cuts through the noise in the restaurant. In breaking news tonight, severe weather has caused many delays and cancellations at major airports. Tragically, Flight 420 from Chicago to Boston hit turbulence and had to make an emergency landing. Officials confirm that while most passengers are safe, there are reports of injuries. We freeze. The smiles disappear from our faces as we listen closely. The reporter keeps talking, her voice serious. Experts warn that the storms affecting air traffic tonight are some of the most dangerous seen this season. Travelers are asked to stay patient as airlines focus on safety. The man slowly puts down his fork. His voice is quiet as he says, "That could have been us." The woman nods, her face pale. We were so angry about the delay, but maybe it saved our lives. I look at both of them and say, it's scary to think about. But you're right. Maybe being stuck here wasn't so bad after all. The restaurant gets quieter as more people turn to watch the TV. The mood changes completely. Earlier, everyone was frustrated. Now, there is a feeling of relief. The man sighs and leans back in his chair. Sometimes we don't realize it, but things happen for a reason. The woman looks thoughtful and says, "We were lucky tonight. It reminds me to be thankful, even when things don't go as planned." We sit quietly for a moment, letting it all sink in. The chaos and frustration of the day suddenly feels small. As we stand to leave, the three of us exchange a look. We don't say anything, but we understand each other perfectly. The delay, the confusion, and the uncertainty, all of it feels unimportant now compared to what could have happened. We walk out of the restaurant together, much quieter than before. Each of us is lost in our own thoughts. Later, as I lie in bed, the events of the day play in my mind. I can't stop thinking about the news. It feels so close, and it reminds me how much worse the night could have been. The frustration I felt earlier seems small now. Instead of being angry, I feel thankful. Life has a strange way of surprising us. Sometimes even the most annoying situations can turn out to be blessings in disguise. Vocabulary and phrases from the story. Here is a list of important words, verbs, and phrases used in the story. These will help you learn and practice English related to traveling and unexpected situations. Delay. Meaning, a situation where something happens later than planned. Example, your flight is delayed due to bad weather. Practice. Think of a time when something was delayed. What did you do? Cancel meaning, to stop something from happening as planned. Example, the flight is now canceled. Please go to the airline desk for rebooking. Practice, use this word in a sentence. My trip was canceled because of the storm. Rebook, meaning to book something again after a cancellation. Example, please go to the airline desk for rebooking. Practice, imagine your flight is canceled. How would you ask to rebook it? Frustrated, meaning feeling upset or annoyed because something isn't going well. Example, this delay is so frustrating. Practice. Think of a time when you felt frustrated. How did you express it? Patience, meaning the ability to stay calm and not get angry when waiting or dealing with problems. Example, travelers are urged to remain patient as airlines prioritize safety. Practice. Write a sentence about when you need patience. Unpredictable meaning, something that is not easy to guess or expect. Example, airports are so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. Practice. Think of something unpredictable in your life and describe it. Sigh, meaning to let out a long breath to show frustration, relief, or sadness. Example, the man sighed deeply and said, "This is a nightmare." Practice. Try sighing. Why do you usually sigh when you're tired, annoyed, or happy? Things happen for a reason. Meaning a phrase used to explain that bad events can sometimes lead to something good later. Example, sometimes we don't realize it, but things happen for a reason. Practice. Do you agree with this idea? Write about a time it was true for you. Let it sink in, meaning to take time to fully understand or accept something. Example, we sit there for a moment, letting the weight of it all sink in. Practice. Think of a moment when you needed time to let something sink in. Blessing in disguise, meaning a bad situation that actually brings something good later. Example, sometimes even the most annoying situations can turn out to be blessings in disguise. Practice. Write about a time when something bad turned out to be good. Announcement, meaning a public message shared through speakers or other media. Example, attention, passengers of Flight 107, the flight is now canceled. Practice. Imagine you hear an announcement at the airport. What does it say? Apologize, meaning to say sorry for something. Example, we apologize for the inconvenience. Practice, use this word in a sentence. The staff apologized for the delay. Tense, meaning a situation where people feel stress or worry. Example, the atmosphere in the lounge was tense. Practice, describe a situation where you felt tense. Groan, meaning to make a sound that shows frustration or disappointment. Example, the man groaned loudly when he heard the flight was canceled. Practice. Think of a time when you groaned. What caused it? Murmur, meaning to speak softly so that it's hard to hear. Example, people started murmuring when they heard the announcement. Practice, use this word in a sentence. The students murmured about the surprise test, exhausted, meaning very tired. Example, she was rubbing her temples and looked exhausted. Practice, write about a time when you felt exhausted, desperate, meaning feeling a strong need for help or a solution. Example, people were on their phones, desperately trying to rebook flights. Practice. Use this word to describe a moment when you felt desperate, chaotic, meaning full of confusion or lack of order. Example, the atmosphere at the airline desk was chaotic. Practice. Think of a chaotic situation you've experienced. How did it feel? Relief, meaning a feeling of comfort when something difficult or unpleasant ends. Example, the mood shifted from frustration to relief when we heard the news. Practice. Use this word to describe a moment when you felt relief. Connection, meaning a bond or understanding shared between people. Example, even in the chaos, there's a small sense of relief and connection. Practice, write about a time you felt a connection with someone unexpected. Now don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos to help you improve your English. See you in the next lesson. Happy learning!